The only constant in your game is yourself. That is just the reality of it. If you cannot improve, regardless of teammates and whatnot, there will always be one bad game, but like you are there for 100% of the games.
The support heroes in this game are so overkitted, over bloated, and like brain dead accessible. It's crazy.
If a perma like junk player can hit GM, I really think like any other people have a good chance of hitting GM.
Welcome back to Overthink, the game show where I ask contestants a series of Overwatch hot takes to see where they stand. Feel free to play along in the comments to let me know what your opinions are on these hot takes. And if you'd like to actually be on an episode, go ahead and sign up in my Discord. I host these live on my Twitch channel most Sundays, so please go follow me on there to catch a show live. And lastly, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe for more content like this. If you are hard stuck in a rank, it's likely a skill issue. So we have two people in agree, everybody else in somewhat agree, and nobody on the disagree side of the spectrum. There are going to be a lot of plat, gold, silver, and bronze players watching this video mauling right now. But it's not me, it's my teammates, guys. It's my teammates. All right, so Hot Reddit Mod and Xtor, you guys are the only ones in agree. Who would like to speak?
I'm in agree because, you know, I've been in plat before, like in Overwatch 1, and I just practiced a lot, and that's how I ranked up, I guess. So I don't see how other people can't do that if they just dedicate the time.
Pretty much the same thing that he said. I was in the diamond in Overwatch 1, and if you just put the time in, you'll be just fine regardless of the teammates you have. You're gonna get really bad teammates in all the ranks anyway, so just gotta win the ones you can.
I feel like some people have like a misconception about like bad teammates. If you like grind out like 1,000 games, and you have like a positive win rate, you're gonna rank up.
I somewhat agree because at the end of the day, it is your own skill, and if your skill is not going to carry you over to the next rank, then you're not going to rank up. That's just the end all be all. I will say the reason why I'm in somewhat agree is that there is a big prevalence of like one tricks, which is like, you know, technically you shouldn't be a one trick if you really want to climb, but people play this game for fun. And at the end of the day, some metas are just not for your character, and some people will stay like in lower ranks just because of it. Maybe not like a crazy amount, but maybe like going from Masters into like GM5, in my opinion, is like the cutoff for me. Or, you know, vice versa, like one rank below.
I'm in somewhat agree. I agree, like if you just like practice and just like you play the game like over time, naturally you'll get better. But I can understand maybe sometimes there's like limitations. I know there are like, you know, GM players and like pros who told their stories like they hit GM playing on like a laptop or whatever, but I can understand if like you can't hit GM because like, you know, either you play on like a bad setup or like, you know, you're just like a little handicapped by what your like gaming system can do or whatnot. But I also at the same time, it's like I think anything is like if you just play the game and just keep practicing, I think you can hit high ranks.
I think I agree with most of what the people in agree said, except for just one difference is that like I have a good friend who likes to play with his friends, and they're not good enough to rank up with him. So while he's really skilled, he can't win his games because he's playing with his friends. So that's why he's hard stuck. There's some different cases that are like that, in my opinion.
I prefer 5v5.
I prefer 5v5 because it's like a player issue, because most people back in 6v6 did not queue tank, and most people still don't really queue tank now, but back then it was so bad because I was a DPS player and I would legit have to wait like on average like 10 minutes just to play like a 10-minute game. So I think 5v5 was like, you know, the only solution to, you know, make sure that everybody has a decent queue time.
I'm in the somewhat agree stance because I prefer 5v5 because it's more fast-paced than 6v6. I like it that way. I like it that way way more than 6v6. And like usually in 5v5, it's more like you can kind of carry sometimes in solo. You don't have to like depend on your team. While in 6v6, like you kind of just have to play with your team. You have to like follow everything your team is doing.
I just think they're two completely different games from like fundamental perspective. And like 6v6, there's more like complexity with like ability traits, and in 5v5 it is a lot more fast-paced because there's one less thing to worry about.
So I'm neutral because it's just they're completely different games, each with their own ups and downs that we can argue all day about. That's my sense.
The reason why I'm in somewhat disagree and not disagree like fully is because I don't hate 5v5, but and I don't mind 5v5 at all, but I think 6v6 just had a lot more expression of just like I feel like what the game was like meant to be, like a team-based shooter and like skill kind of almost. I mean, you could argue 5v5 is more skill, but I feel like the game almost feels like more TDM based because you don't have that second tank, and like a lot of like metas right now revolve around like, you know, solo carry characters like Alari and like double flex support. And there's like fundamentally like there's like things that are fundamentally wrong about 5v5, like how the fact that because there's no second tank, they're always like every tank has to be like super strong and super buffed, but that leads to like issues with like counter swapping nowadays, and like this counter swap pandemic that we're in with, since there's only like 1 or 2 good tanks, that means either like the other tanks you're either throwing if you don't like play any other tank, or it's just like every tank just kind of like runs every lobby and just changes the game for everyone else.
5v5 is objectively an inferior format in every regard. Even like, I guess Q times are a good argument, but listen, the game, I don't believe the game is faster paced at all. The balance is objectively worse for the game because it has to be that way for the game to even run in the first place. 5v5 adds a lot of issues. For example, Weaver's design is inherently a 5v5 issue where, for example, I'm playing Tracer, the enemy's playing Widow. If there wasn't a character with the ability to just instantly bail them out, then the heroes just simply wouldn't work anymore outside or inside a 5v5 game, because what happens is it becomes too easy to access those duels. Therefore, those duels become too easy to take, and the disparity between the characters grows larger, which makes counterpicking worse, which means you need heroes in the game that can manipulate the game in a way to change the core fundamentals of it in order to stop an interaction from happening, because there's no peel from an off tank, making the game objectively worse in every format, or in every way in this format, due to the fact that the game has to be built in a way that makes it so, although duels are more accessible, they are harder to take because the character design required for 5v5 makes heroes too accessible. Therefore, the format sucks.
I think anyone can get to GM if they actually tried. All right, we're pretty split here. We have 4 people in agree, 1 person in somewhat disagree, and 2 people in disagree. So let's hear from 2 people in agree to kick this off.
I think if you put enough time into the game and you just play, it sounds corny, but like anything is possible. And I know, and I just think like everyone has it in them maybe to like hit GM. And I think it's like, if you just play and practice and like kind of like dedicate and like actually put time and work. And I know some people like it's just a game, so they don't play to get better, but like I think some people can. Like I know there's like a lot of plat diamond players who are just like they have the mechanics, but they don't like try to like understand like how like certain games and characters work. So they just like don't try like hard enough. You know what I'm trying to say? I just think, you know, anything is possible if you do it.
To add on to that, I recently, like a couple seasons ago, I recently learned how to play Sim, like one trick Sim up to GM. And it really takes like not just practice, but also like kind of engrossing yourself, kind of like what in any type of skill that you need to learn why certain characters play, what certain play styles work. A lot of the time is that putting the time, or even just swapping what heroes you play, like swapping stuff up. When I first started playing Overwatch, I was like a gold Genji main, and then I found support, and then I instantly went up to diamond. That may not be like helping the allegations of supports, you know, support being an easy role, but you know, sometimes it's a different way of thinking, and that's something that some players may need to find.
So I feel like a lot of people, when they try to climb, they don't try to take every single mechanic that is allowed in the game. Like, for example, grouping up or playing like the right meta and everything. I feel like a lot of people like to just play the character that they want that are not necessarily like meta or good now. And I feel like that's holding back a lot of people. Also, people like don't put enough practice in. So that's a lot that can hold back people a lot as well.
And listen, I coach the game for a living, so I see a lot of different skills. You know, I see gold players, plat players, diamond players. And the thing is a lot of players, I think genuinely every player likely does have the potential to hit GM in the perfect circumstances. but not everyone has those perfect circumstances. Like even this season, there are GM1 players or previous top 500 players that are still hard stuck in Diamond, that are still hard stuck in Masters. And unless you're grinding like a really, really like egregiously long amount of time, then it genuinely, some players just might never make it, even if they're capable of it, because the rank grind is so awful. Like, for some people, having one thrower or one lever is the difference between them hitting GM that season and then them hitting GM next season, because they just don't have the time to work off that elo they lost from that lever. And with the way ranked is right now, with the reset and everyone being in wrong ranks and the way the elo is getting distributed, it's just such an unbelievable task to grind through the ranks that I think some people, even if they have a potential for it, just don't have the time to make it, regardless of if they deserve it.
I'm in disagree because I think that a lot of what Green said, I think ranking up this, especially these new seasons, is really, really difficult, especially because there's one rank in your way of GM called Masters that has a mix of, as Green said, all the wrong ranks, right? There's Diamond players that have made it to Masters. There's high GM players that are fallen to Masters. And getting through Masters, especially as myself, when I fall into Masters, I find it much harder to play in Masters than it is to play in GM, because of the fact that you're going to get one or two people that just don't know how to play the game on your team, and you can't control that. So it's going to be, even if someone tries a lot, especially if they're not as skilled as GM players, they're never going to get to GM because the Masters rank.
I'm just gonna go strictly by, I'm gonna take the prompt like literally, and it says that like anyone can get to GM if they tried, right? So, but like some people have like really severe disabilities, and doesn't matter how hard they try, it's just like, it's not possible.
I just wanted to say, like, just another thing is, like, someone brought up like one tricks, and like I think another reason, like, I think if you can see like GM Junkrat players or GM like Zenyatta one tricks, like, who just like flank the whole game, I think like if a perma like junk player can hit GM, I really think like any other people have a good chance of hitting GM if one person can play a bad character and hit GM. Just wanted to add.
I think a counterpoint to what Pi just said is those GM players, those GM one tricks are cream of the crop players at their heroes, and it's like top 5 on their heroes, right? Like, people, just some random Junkrat player in Plat could grind as much as he wants, and it'll never be as good as, I don't know, I'll take one for example, like, I don't know, Sophie's pretty good at Junk, right? I play against them a lot, so they'll never be good as them, right? Vulture, for example, never be as good as them, no matter how hard they try, because they've been playing that hero for thousands and thousands of hours, and they'll continue playing that hero for thousands and thousands of hours, and it's impossible to catch up.
Isn't that how every skill is? If you wanted to be good at something, you would put work into it. And like, obviously, like, there are limitations, I get that, but at the end of the day, like, if there's a will, there's a way.
I guess my point was that these players, the players that are top 500 on Junkrat, there's only a set amount of them, right? Because Junkrat's he's such a bad hero that you can't have, 50 Junkrats in top 500 because it just won't work out that way. So as long as these Junkrat players keep playing, they'll push out the ones that are worse than them out of the rank. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's not like the whole point. The whole point is that, can you reach GM if you try hard? And I feel like, yeah, you might never be as good as, like, that Junkrat, but you might hit GM because you're that good. You might not be as good as that Junk, but you still hit GM because you're still good. You know what I'm saying?
GM is top 500 right now, so it's like the better players is like someone else said, the better players will push out people who are worse than them. So yeah.
Is there anybody that after hearing others speak would like to change their stance? All right, X-Star, you went from agree to somewhat agree. Why'd you change?
I changed my stance to somewhat agree because I'm still hopeful. I feel like they kind of gave the like reality check of like, hey, not everyone is gonna be able to. Like, for example, I read him out, took it literally, and I was like, yeah, he's right. Not everyone can hit GM, right? And with the way the rank is right now, I have an account right now that's GM4 actually, GM4. And then I have my other account that's in Masters, and I'm struggling more to get that one up than to play on my main, which is GM5 right now.
People who say their teammates hold them back are in denial.
Ooh, I have something to say about this, especially now, because there are essentially like 15 avoid slots now, and if you are losing games consistently, and even if it's like there are ways to avoid certain teammates that you may get, and at the end of the day, like, the only constant in your game is yourself. Like that is just the reality of it. If you cannot improve, regardless of, teammates and whatnot, there will always be one bad game, but like you are there for 100% of the games.
I agree with what you just said. I mean, it's just good mentality, I think, to just take full accountability for, all your mistakes and not blame other people.
I think people who say that their teammates hold them back are kind of in denial, because I understand that I'm a firm believer, especially from a top 500 on console, that like since it's like a smaller community, you get more lobbies with like the same people. And I know it's PC too, but like the population on PC is like more whatever. But I'm a firm believer in like loading screen losses, because sometimes you load into like a game with like 2-1 tricks on your team and that you like may recognize, and then the other team has like 3 like really good players. And I understand that some games are just unwinnable, especially like now when you have like when there's just like 1 tricks, and like I know Juno isn't the worst throw pick, but like so a lot of games you load into, it's just like Juno, and then like you gotta like hope your other support plays like a real like support like BAP or something. But like it's just some games that are just like unwinnable. But I do believe that like you are like supposed to be like the best player on your, like not like the best player on your team, but like you like it's your job to like, you can like carry any lobby if you like lock in and like you like try hard enough, and you can get out of like a lot of ranks and win a lot of games if you just like win.
I think I see this question a little differently. I'm in somewhat agree, because I see the question as they're holding you back from what, right? They're holding you back from ranking up, sure, maybe. But in my opinion, rank should be a playground to improve in, and you should apply that in other places, right? Like tournaments and stuff. So your teammates are never holding you back from improving. You can always be working on your positioning. You can always be working on your comms. That has nothing to do with your teammate. That's completely independent. So they're really never holding you back unless your main goal is to get to like the highest rank, which I know that's some people's, but a lot more people would just want to improve, I think.
I'm here to talk for the golds, the plats, the diamonds. Listen, I coach the game religiously. The amount of players where I'm not saying they're amazing, maybe they're like a diamond level player, but they're in a plat lobby. Dude, the skill discrepancies in these lower ranks is absurd. You go from like seeing like plat widows to hit absolutely everything to like the most unbelievable feeding on Lucio that you would never believe. And these diamond level players, or these players that are ever so slightly better than the rank they're in, just are not able to output the numbers required to carry their teammates. Like for example, I hit rank 1 all roles last season. I have an account that's low masters, and there are some games where genuinely it is completely irrelevant how well I play. I can go 55-2. It does not matter. Some of these players are genuinely impossible to carry. And if you're not like an insanely good player, if you're not like a top 500 player in plat, if you're like a diamond player in plat, like dude, sometimes you're just not able to output what you need to carry those players. Now, obviously, over an extremely long period of time, you'll work your way out of that rank. But in a lot of cases, all it takes is like one very, very slightly unlucky scenario, and you're straight back where you started, regardless of how good you are.
I'm more of the philosophy of like a long time ago, it was like you win a third, you lose a third, and that last third of the games that you play is going to be the one that you decide whether you're going to win or lose, because you're going to get the levers, you're going to get really bad players, you're going to have games where you completely stomp. It's completely unfair, and there's going to games where you're going to get stomped, but there's always that 1/3 of games where you're going to have to put up a fight, and that's where those are the games that you really need to look at where you want to improve, and that's where you are going to start to see the climb. And so I understand that it's like some of these games are going to be unwinnable, but you keep bringing up the fact that it's like, oh, you're going to get this one game, oh, it's this small fraction of the games. Like, yes, I understand that the rank system is very unfair sometimes, where like, oh, you win 2 and you lose 1, you end up losing all that progress. But that's kind of the name of the game. But at the end of the day, if you have a higher win rate and you win 2/3 of your games, you end up 66%, or even like a 51%, you're technically still climbing, right? So that's kind of what I wanted to say on that.
I honestly think people aren't abusing the rank system more, in my opinion. There's a difference between, like, in my opinion, skill and also knowing how to play the rank system, i.e. like playing at certain times, using the avoid slots like effectively, like all that stuff. That may be like more like usable within the higher ranks, because like you will see the same players more and more, but knowing how these systems work and like knowing that, in my opinion, helps the climb ever so slightly. Does it mean that you're more of a skillful player? That's up to like how you see it, but like at the end of the day, the rank system will work if you like work for it, I guess, if that makes sense.
Support is the easiest role in the game. I kind of felt like that GM players would say this. I really do. And it's always funny to see how the different ranks view the difficulty of different roles. All right, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people in agree and 2 people in somewhat agree.
I think support is the easiest role, not because it's inherently like a super easy role to play. You know, there's still some quirks that you have to, do better than anyone else to push. But I think that DPS and tank are just harder roles. That's my take on why support's the easiest role.
I think a lot of support players are like from Overwatch 1, and I think, back then you didn't have, you just heal botted, and they're not like they're just not mechanically good. So there's like a lot of mechanically bad support players, and then you just have to be like a somewhat decent mechanically good support player, and then you can just rank up really easily.
Listen, the support heroes back in like the earlier days of Overwatch 1, a lot of those characters were not easy to play, and back then I would disagree. But today, the support heroes in this game are so overkitted, over bloated, and like brain dead accessible. It's crazy. And Larry's bullets are like Jupiter itself. Like you physically can't miss if you like have the ability to see what's on your monitor. And like the pylon plays itself. The Suzu is just inherently broken at its core. The ammo is broken. Basically every support through Overwatch's release ever since like BAP, even sometimes before BAP, it's just so ludicrously overpowered where they can just do quite literally everything. A lot of the supports do more damage than the DPS. They're able to survive longer than some tanks are. They have more mobility. They have more playmaking options. They have more carry potential. They have more weight on the game. But the role is so babied and accessible that it's so simple to have basically no idea what you're doing on some of these heroes and output like an unbelievable stat performance. It's like, it doesn't make sense. You need to put in so little effort to do so much on this role.
The reason why I'm not in agree and why I'm in somewhat disagree is because I believe that support is the easiest to climb, but when it comes in like in competitive environment like scrimming and all that, I think that's when like support really like shows like that you can really see the difference between like how skillful like support is just on like ladder and then just like in like a team environment, because I feel like the skill ceiling for support is almost higher than like DPS, because I think an average, like I think you can be average at support and still climb because of how kind of like what Greed said was how like baby the role is and how like overkitted, and like how like I kind of feel like there's a lot of carry potential, or maybe not carry potential on support, but like you can, if you don't have a DPS on your team, it's okay, you can just DPS BAP or Lari and like heal at the same time. It's like crazy how it works. And I don't know, I think it's just like it's easy to climb on, but like to get good at the character, like really good, like how like a lot of these like professionals are, it's like the skill ceiling is like higher than other roles.
As someone who actively plays a worse support, I personally, and one that is in my opinion like the easiest support, I think that like support is such an easy role to get into, which can lead to like, if you just stay alive, you could win like more than half of your games. However, there's, especially like for me as Mercy, there's a lot more that you have to like optimize. And maybe I'm just biased in saying that, but there's a lot more that you have to optimize, i.e. like certain duels. Like for example, I sometimes damage boost Widow 1v1s, especially on Havana, because if you win that duel, you instantly give value to your other snipers and whatnot. That's something that most like Mercies like in lower ranks would not do, and that's something that like as you learn up, and obviously more supports have that. There's a lot more. Even the main offender, which is like Kiriko, that has like the over kitted like playstyle, or not playstyle, kit. You come to realize more that you have to play more aggressively, even on the less aggressive supports, and that's something that's why I'm in somewhat agree, because that's like a very hard like awakening that specifically like diamond supports going up to like masters and GM like get to.
Is there anybody that would like to change their stance after hearing others speak? All right, Greed, you went from agree to somewhat agree. Why?
Listen, I changed my stance because I think it depends on the hero. Like if you play Mercy or you play Lucio or you play Anna, I respect that. That is tough sometimes. Sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. But if you play like Baptiste or you play Carrie or Moira or Weaver or any of these like characters that quite literally play themselves like Illari, like I'm sorry, Baptiste and Illari are better DPS heroes than like 80% of the DPS heroes are. But if you play like Anna, listen, I feel the pain. That character can suck sometimes. And I get that's playing difficult. I'm not trying to say that playing Anna is easy. But playing Baptiste is quite literally brain dead. And I will not be told otherwise. That character can do literally everything. If you have a functioning brain, you can play the character efficiently.
You should always try to play meta. All right, we have a whole lot of people in somewhat disagree and one person in somewhat agree. So Pi, let's start with you.
I think if you queue ranked, I feel like you should be playing to win. And I feel like you should be playing characters that like increase your chances of winning. But I'd be like lying if I said like at the end of the day it's like ranked, and I feel like there's better ways to like prove that you're good, like playing in like a team environment. And I'd be like lying if I said that like I've like made like one trick accounts just to like see how high I could climb on them. And like so I couldn't sit over here and say like, nah, you should be playing meta, because I'm also a culprit of like one tricking and just like hopping on alt accounts and just playing a random character just for fun. But I do think like in general, like you should play like good characters and not just run it down on like Junkrat every game and play to win.
As someone who, you know, Resident Mercy main here, I have done so much with Mercy. I have played Mercy with no sound and have gone into GM1. Obviously meta is something that like at some points you will like, I will have to swap to Lucio. I will go into Lucio jail if I need to. But there are some people that like, honestly, you are more valuable on the character that you know than if you play like a bad Kiri or a bad Lucio. It's like astronomical, like in my opinion, like seeing how people like try to flex and then it just doesn't work out. Maybe that's I'm a one trick predominantly, but you know, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, listen, I think meta holds people back in a lot of cases. Like, just because Diva and Monkey are the meta picks and you probably should be playing them, that doesn't mean that you can't play the Rein, right? It doesn't mean you can't play the Zarya. It doesn't mean you can't play the Sigma. Now, will it be miserable and your team will hate you? Absolutely. But who cares? You know what I'm saying? Like, I play Genji and I play Zarya, so everyone hates me by default, because like if I'm on your team, you probably lose. But like at the end of the day, it's a video game. Like, I think playing Diva is the most boring thing imaginable. That character is just hold right click and fly at the squishy hero and shoot them. And that's basically it. So I'm going to play Zarya. I don't care how much counter picking is done to me. I don't care, because I'm having a good time shooting people with my big laser. And that's all.
I think I'm here for just a slightly different reason. I agree with everything that they said pretty much, but I am more of like, you don't have to play meta, but if your team comp right now is like, you don't know, like a rush or like a dive, and you pick something that really doesn't synergize with that, it's like I feel like I find it more enjoyable when we run actual comps, because I'm more closely tied to like the competitive side of like Overwatch, like OWCS or Collegiate and stuff like that. So running comps and making them run in comp is like really, really fun and enjoyable. But when you're not running it and you have like some random like pick that doesn't really synergize too well, there's like ups and downs to it, I guess.
I understand like playing like, you know, playing even if like you aren't good at a character, like, you know, play your best character, but especially in like high elo, and like I feel like the most fun experience in the game is when you load into like a lobby with like, and like everybody in the lobby is like known, you know everybody, and like both teams play like the same like comp, and like meta almost, like both teams are like mirroring. I feel like that's the most fun like you can have in the game, when like both teams are trying and like everyone's playing their like to their best to win. And like I feel like that's the main reason why I kind of play like ranked, is because it's just like fun to like get in like those kind of lobbies, like when both teams are like playing meta and everyone on both teams are trying. Like that's the most fun in the game, like I feel like you can have. And like to have like one person like ruin it like kind of sucks. But like, you know, that's why I kind of prefer when everyone's like trying. and playing kind of meta.
If there's anybody that would like to change their stance after hearing others speak, go ahead and do so now. All right, EO, you moved from somewhat disagree to disagree. Why? Tell us.
So at first, I was really only thinking about like the fun aspect. Like at the end of the day, it's a video game. Like playing meta is sometimes, especially for some certain people, it's super boring. And at the end of the day, you know, you're supposed to have fun. You know, if that's what you want to do, have fun, that's chill. But then, you know, Pirate Walnut's point, you know, one tricks. I think swapping off your one trick to play meta is an objectively bad decision. There's so many times where I've had, you know, like a Mercy one trick on my team that, you know, someone asked them to swap Lucio and they do it and they just play absolutely terribly, and it's just not a fun experience for anyone. So you might as well have them on their best hero and just like forget about meta, because I think that gives you the best chance to win.
We're gonna end the show in the way that we always end the show. I'm gonna have you guys try to find where you think the camera is, alt it, while telling the viewers to subscribe to ChristalRaine. 3, 2, 1, go!
Subscribe to ChristalRaine.
ChristalRaine.
Subscribe to ChristalRaine.
It's up to me. It's up to me, guys.
2 to the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I play easy mode, and I play to win. I love to die, and I like to BRB. All systems checked out, group up with me. 2 to the 1, to the 1, to the 3. I'm here to party. GG. A giant gorilla can keep up with me. You can't be serious. I'm the queen bee. Get out of the way. I'm the MVP. Move